And then once it goes
Okay,
live,
I'll
then
go live now.
Okay, sounds good. All right, let me just make sure that everything's coming through, that we're looking good on YouTube. It says waiting for Proko 3D, but it should be going live. Let me just refresh that. All right, waiting for, just making sure everything looks good before we get going. There we are. Okay. All right, I'm seeing myself, hearing myself. That means that we are good. Okay, welcome to day 5. This is the last day that I'll be doing the demo for you guys. And for today, what I'd like to try to do is start working on the details. What I'll probably do is just kind of go down and work on the details of one half of the body. Usually I wouldn't work this way, but because it's the last day of the live stream, I kind of want you guys to see how I would go about starting to establish things like anatomy and stuff like that. Shout out to our sponsors. You can find those in the link in the description. DaVinci Eye, Posespace.com, Proko.com, Blick Art Materials, and myself are all sponsors for the competition. Big thank you to everybody that's made this possible. It's been really fun, and hopefully you guys have benefited from it. If you have questions and you're watching on the live stream, you can go ahead and ask those, and I'll try to get to all the questions that I can. And yeah, we'll just get right into it, and I'll start by, let me just come and move over the center line a little bit, and let's go ahead and start to establish the details. For this, I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you guys can see a little better, and we're going to be working on the torso area. And I have my references. Again, those can be found at posespace.com. And for the details, what I'm going to be doing is just taking little pieces of clay and then pressing them on the surface and kind of smoothing out the area and trying to build them up in a way that gives an indication of the surface anatomy that I'm seeing. So here is going to be pretty soft. It's a pretty soft transition, but I'm just taking little tiny pieces of clay at a time and then laying it onto the surface of the sculpture. Let's see, somebody saying hello from New Mexico. I'm late on the train, but hopefully I'll catch up this next couple of days. Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, you have 2 weekends to finish the sculpture, and then May 8th you can submit. New Mexico, I lived in New Mexico for a little bit when I was a missionary. I was in El Paso, Texas, and then I served for like 6 months in New Mexico. So yeah, that's a cool area depending on the area. Okay, so I'm just starting to smooth things out, and I'm looking at the reference, and then I'm gonna go ahead and draw in some of the anatomical features that I'm seeing, just to give myself an idea of what's going on. I'm seeing the crest of the superior anterior iliac, or is it the iliac spine? It's on the pelvis right here, and then from there I'm seeing some muscles that are coming down. So I just want to basically draw those in first. There's a little bit of an indent right about there, and then this muscle that kind of comes down and travels this way. So it's a lot faster to just draw in, if you can see, drawing in those guidelines first, and then I can come in with little pieces of clay and start to refine and define the forms. This one, there's part of it that's kind of more indented. Let's see, I'm trying to get into sculpture. What is the first thing I should sculpt? Well, it depends on what you're interested in. If you think you might like figurative stuff, then I recommend just going through the assignments for the figure sculpting course. And you can even just start with the free videos that are here on the Proko 3D YouTube channel and just go through and do those assignments if you're interested in sculpting people. But you might be interested in sculpting something else, and so you can take the principles from the course, the sculpting principles, and apply that to really anything you're interested in. I happen to be most interested in people. I think that people make the best art. They're more interesting than animals or scenery, and that's my personal preference. But I'd say whatever, if you're interested in something, it'll be a lot easier to study it and sculpt it than if it's something that you're not really that interested in. So if you're more interested in portraiture, you might look at the assignments for the portrait sculpting course and start doing those. So I'm just gonna be, let's see, I'm just kind of rolling the tool across the surface and then taking little pieces of clay where I need and adding those to the sculpture. I'm actually going to draw in the center line a little bit more clearly, and I'll just be working on this upper half for right now of the torso. And very soft. This is a soft figure. Let's see. Somebody's asking, is 2 cranial units from the elbow to the end of the loop, or is it let's see, to the end of the loop, the hand loop, or is it to the base of the hand loop on the armature? I have had a great week doing this. Thank you for this. Oh, okay. So let me see if I understand. So the 2 cranial units is from the elbow to the knuckles right here on the hand, and this is the loop that you see here in the wire armature. It's the palm of the hand right here. That is the loop, and then the fingers come off of that. Hopefully that answers the question, but that's how I do it. Yeah, 2 units from the shoulder to the elbow, 2 units from the elbow to the first set of knuckles before the fingers begin. Hello from Mississippi. Oh, awesome. Do you rake your sculptures towards the end? Rake tools, I don't have many rake tools, but I do know of sculptors that use rake tools, which are basically just, they're like loop tools with divots in them, or they'll have additional wire wrapped around it. But I usually just use a tool similar to this one to move the clay around, and then just this tool. But it depends on the surface that you're going for. Rake tools can be really useful, and they can help if you're doing like a crisscross cross hatching type of way to find the forms, which is really effective. I talked about that on one of the other live streams, that if you look at the old masters, they would use a chisel and kind of crisscross cross hatch as they're finding the forms of the figure. And you can do that with rake tools, but I don't have any rake tools that I use regularly right now. Maybe I'll get some. Let's see, I'm just trying to find the forms, smooth things out, get rid of the texture that's left from just doing it by hand. Somebody says hello from Mexico. Hello. And then I think so far we've had there was also somebody from Montenegro. I don't know how they pronounce that. And then Mississippi and Mexico. Very cool. Okay. going to keep softening. So I feel like this is, you know, the figure here is really soft. And then coming at the surface from different directions as you're smoothing things out, trying to vary the strokes makes a more interesting surface, I feel like. I'm going to go to different angle. Try to see some more of the anatomy. And so, and you know, she has these the area here of the ribs that stands out quite a bit. But the choice, the choice that you have to make as an artist is how much do you want to accentuate the anatomy? What areas do you want to like draw attention to? Usually those areas you'll have more contrast or things like that. And then what areas do you want to soften? The model has a, you know, a soft figure. It's not overly defined or overly muscular. Very feminine, very soft. So I do want that to come across as I'm adding in the anatomy. Let me come up to the shoulder. She's got the only place where it is kind of really distinct and bony is the area around the clavicle. That is pretty distinct on this model, so I'm going to come and try to give a little bit more of an indication of that. That clavicle that's coming forward. And then there's a bump where the area of the shoulder. It's pretty clear. Transitions into that clavicle. And that's like a bow and arrow, so it comes forward and then it kind of bends back in this area of the shoulder. So I want to make sure I capture that basic form. And then I can keep working the details. Somebody's asking, have you tried sculpting with different materials like wood or stone? Yeah, I have. I've done wood sculptures and I've done stone sculptures. Most of my stone sculptures are more abstract and stylized, so they're all based on the figure, but much more just abstracted, either simplified or like more designed. And that's just because I learned stone sculpting from a sculptor that just did abstract sculpting. But I like the figure, so I would just take that abstraction and then apply it to the figure, because that's what I was interested in. But if I would have had an instructor that would have shown me, you know, naturalistic, realistic stone sculpting, that's probably what I would have gone for. But because I didn't have that, my sculptures are mostly my stone sculptures are mostly abstract. But that's fun. I'll do some videos on that. I might even have in the future I might even have a course that goes over stone sculpting, like how to do stone sculpting, because that's also something that I think people think it's like really difficult, or that you need really, really expensive tools to be able to do stone sculpting. But in reality, you can do stone sculpting with tools that you get from like Harbor Freight, and it's not super expensive. And then the finish on a stone sculpture is really impressive if you take your time to finish it. Yeah. Wood, I don't like using wood tools just because they're so feel so much more dangerous. Stone tools, you're not gonna like cut your finger off with most stone tools, but wood tools, they have to be able to chop through that wood, and so they can be pretty dangerous. So they make me nervous. But I guess as long as you're careful, you know, it's not too bad. But I also don't like the sawdust that comes from using wood tools. Like breathe it in. Stone dust, at least the stone dust that I've done, if it's marble dust or things like that, that doesn't bother you too much. If it's silica stone, then it can be dangerous because your body isn't able to get rid of the silica very well. But for most types of sculpture, it's let's see. I'm feeling like something's off right here. I feel like this is just, you know, maybe too compressed. So I'm just gonna move things down a little bit. So come down with the rib cage just by taking little pieces of clay and then pulling the rib cage down. And that might be, you know, it might just be how the model is, that she does have kind of a short rib cage. But at this point I'm thinking like about the design and just making it feel like things are working. And right now I feel like the rib cage and the chest, that all the details are just kind of being pushed together. So I might have maybe I made a mistake and did that, or maybe that's just how things are, but I'm gonna come and address that. And I'm rolling the tool across the surface to try to smooth things out. Coming at it from different directions. You can see how in this area how it's starting to look smoother. Somebody's saying abstract is a lot of fun too. Yeah, I really enjoy abstract sculpting. When I was younger, and still, I kind of feel like that many artists go to abstract because they don't want to take the time to develop the skills and discipline that it takes to do realistic sculpting, which is very challenging. So I do think that abstract, if you let it, it can be kind of a crutch. You can say like, oh, like I tried to sculpt realistically, it was difficult, so I'm just going to be an abstract sculptor. But what I think is, if you can sculpt realistically and understand the forms of the figure, then that can make your abstract sculptures so much more interesting because your understanding of the figure, you can choose to abstract ways in a way that shows that understanding. And I think abstract, it's easier to do because, you know, you're not hampered by making it look like a real person, so it's easier. But very few abstract sculptors do a good job, like have work that is really interesting and beautiful. And so I think, yeah, abstract, it's fun, but I'd say like don't let it be a crutch. Like always be trying to learn how to and study the figure, how things exist in reality. And once you understand how things exist in reality, then when you change things, that knowledge will come through and it'll be much more interesting of a design. Yeah, maybe I should do a yeah, I should do some abstract sculptures. Those are fun. Or even just, you know, simplifying is a way to abstract. There's actually a video, if you've purchased the full figure sculpting fundamentals course, which I recommend that you do. Anybody that's interested in this competition, if you can save up, or you know, I know it's an investment, but if you like sculpting, then I would get the full course. But there is a video that goes over abstraction because it's something that I'm really interested in and that is really fun. And so I talk about kind of the philosophy of abstraction, what to be thinking about as you're abstracting the figure. Let's see, I'm going to come to the side, try to soften things. Somebody's asking, is this the final live and the content ends this week? I have not much time, but getting into clay, getting the clay on now. Yeah, this is the last live stream, but you'll be able to watch these live streams afterwards just on the Proko 3D YouTube channel. You just go to the live section and you'll be able to find these live streams, so you can watch them after. And but this will be the last demo, so that's why I'm kind of showing how to start to work on the surface area, just smooth things out and things like that. Even though I probably, if I was doing this sculpture, I probably would have taken a little bit longer working on the pose and working by hand before I started with the texturing and smoothing things out. But I did want to show you guys this part of the process. Somebody's saying, currently mine looks like a bad what is that? Giacometti? Yeah, if you look up Giacometti, if he's the artist that I'm thinking of, he has those like really thin figures that are just like little bits, like tiny bits of clay, and then really thin figures, very abstract, but a very distinct style. And he became, a very successful sculptor while he was alive, if I remember correctly. So you don't have to, if you can figure out the market and how to sell your work, you don't have to be an extraordinary artist to be able to do very well. So I think, that sales and figuring out galleries and things like that, that's maybe an art form all in and of itself, or at least it's a skill for sure. Being able to market and sell your work. That was what I was thinking in university when I was taking a bunch of art classes. I was like, man, they should require that you take a business degree or a business minor if you're going into art, because you basically are becoming your own business. And so you should learn things like marketing, sales, learn how to, keep your records and things like that. That should all be part of what they're teaching at university. But I don't remember ever getting classes that go over that type of stuff. Well, I just had to learn it on my own. It wasn't like required, but I did take, like, I'm just interested in entrepreneurship and things like that. So I did take some of those classes. But I was thinking, man, this should be required, because if you can't figure out a way to monetize what you're doing, sell your work, find a market for it, or, what I did was I decided to go into online courses. That's why I built this course and got in contact with Proko and everything, because I was like, if I can build a course, then that gives me a chance to practice. And then once the course is finished, then I get to have some recurring revenue. Every time one of the course sells, then I get some money. And so if I can make a living off that, then I can do art projects that I enjoy, and I don't have to be focused entirely on on like commissions and things, because commissions are okay, but I really just enjoy, like, you have an idea and then you do the work to bring that idea to life. That's what I really like. And so hopefully that I'll be able to do more of that once I get these courses finished. Yeah, somebody's saying I sell my ceramics and pottery, but do better financially teaching it. Yeah, that's the case with a lot of forms of of art, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that necessarily, because I mean, doing it is part of the experience, and if you have a good teacher, that's worth quite a bit. Even if you never become a professional artist, taking an art class that's something that you enjoy and that you connect with, and that you get better at, like just having a skill that you're getting better at, an artistic skill like sculpture, like it's just a worthwhile thing. It's just like a very human thing. You know, we're the only ones that are concerned with beauty and, you know, creating things with our hands that don't serve any functional purpose, but that just beautify the environment. And I think that's a very important thing. That's why I don't think that AI will replace, you know, that desire for people to create beautiful things, even though AI will soon be able to do it better than other people, because it's able to build on top of the knowledge and artwork of the entire human race, and then compile that, you know, using algorithms, and put together something that quicker and in a more realistic way than almost anybody could ever do. But it's not human. It's just feeding off of the creativity of past people. But it's not a human endeavor. Whereas when you're sculpting yourself, it's a very, very human experience. Let me see. Let me go ahead and build out this arm a little bit more. Try to get that a little bit better established. Looking at it from this side view, from this angle, then I'm just trying to build out the anatomy as I'm taking little tiny pieces of clay, adding those into place. And it's very soft, so I'm gonna come in and soften things out. And remember to err on the side of the primary form, which is just a cylinder. But it is a cylinder that tapers. I'm seeing some tapering. And let's also gonna move this rest down a little bit just by adding some clay. Okay, let me do the same thing that I've been doing with the torso. Actually, I see some areas that are bugging me down here, where I feel like there's weird bumps that I'm not seeing in the reference. So I'm just taking a tool and some clay and smoothing things out. Can also come with other tools. I like this loop tool, this homemade loop tool. There's a video on that on the Proko 3D YouTube channel if you'd like to see how I made these loop tools with just a pen, and you can use a paper clip. This one uses like a paper clip, and these thicker ones are from a paper clamp that I also got from just an office supply place or from the dollar store. You can find those. And it allows you to kind of come into these concave areas a little bit more easily. here's what that's looking like. It's coming along. Coming along. And if you guys want some helpful references for figurative stuff, you might consider checking out my ebook. It's on my online store, and if you've signed up for the competition, the emails that I sent out, there's an email where you can download these reference images from my online store. And on that, or you can just ask me. And I think it's on my personal channel, the Andrew Joseph Keith YouTube channel. And if you go to the links for the channel, there's a link for that. And it's an ebook that just goes over the basic like rhythms of the body and measurements and things like that, some anatomy, but mostly just artistic principles, like ways to look at the figure to try to see gesture in the forms, things like the arms, the legs, looking for gesture with the anatomy and stuff like that. It's not really an anatomy ebook. Its focus is more on gesture and kind of your artistic sensibility when it comes to figurative stuff. But if you want help on finding gesture and things like the legs and the arms, I think it's a really helpful resource. It's called An Artist's X-Ray Vision, the male figure, and it just has a series of reference images, and then I just draw over top of them to show how artists think about the figure. They're like, and consider different things: negative space, anatomy, gesture, center lines. With sculpting, I show like how I think about the armature, where the armature goes, and I just draw over top of reference images. And those visuals, those can be really, really helpful, and they can stick in your mind a little bit better than descriptions a lot of the times. Let me go to back to the front. Yeah, I want to make sure that I'm not getting too, there's nothing that's too hard of a transition. So taking areas where there's a transition and going over it a few times with a tool to soften things up, that can sometimes be helpful, especially on a figure like this where it's a very soft figure. That could be a really, really helpful thing. Just coming at those forms from different directions to smooth things out. Come and work on the upper part as well. Just taking pieces of clay, pressing it on the surface, and then smoothing it out, coming at it from different directions. There might be like there's going to be a sharper transition here underneath the breast tissue, and then as it transfers over towards the chest up here, that transition is gonna soften quite a bit. So the breast is like a water balloon or something like that, where the top of it thins out, and most of that mass and just gravity is pulling the bottom of it down, so that the transition is a little bit sharper underneath, and especially because that arm is down, That's going to be even more the case, though. You know, it also depends somewhat on the model, the size of the breast tissue and things like that. Just paying attention, you know, studying your reference closely. And coming out those forms from different directions. Same thing with the clavicle. Come in here. I'm going to use this tool to kind of give an indication of there's kind of a negative space here between the shoulder, the mass of the shoulder, and the mass of the pectoralis muscle that's coming and attaching inside of the armpit area. And then there's, I want to give somewhat of a distinct transition between those forms. So there's the mass of the pectoralis, and then there's the mass of the breast tissue, and they're two different separate forms, and I want to show that. So I'm just going to come in and give an indication of that by creating some negative space in under here. And this is where the like the subtlety and what makes a really great sculpture comes in, is just being able to take things like this, like the separation between the mass of the pec and the mass of the breast tissue, and accentuate some of those changes in a way that's interesting. But it just highlights to the viewer something that they might not have noticed, or that you might not actually see that much when you're observing an actual model. And in that way, a really great sculpture can be better than a 3D scan. It can be better because you can imbue the sculpture with more information, and you can design it and choose what you want to accentuate and what you want to minimize. And by doing that, you can create something that's more beautiful. That should be the goal, is to make it better than the reference, or to make it more interesting. Or you know, your goal can also just be copying, you know, getting as close. That's also an admirable thing, because it's very difficult. It takes a lot of time and study to be able to duplicate something as complex as the forms of the human figure. So I'm looking at the reference, making sure that I'm studying the reference from a similar angle as the sculpture. And there's some mass as that armpit is squishing that shoulder area. So I'm just trying to lay in that mass in a way that that kind of gives an indication. Let me draw in the scapula. That gives an indication of the anatomy, what's happening and where. There's the scapula, and then there's some of the muscles that they're bending around the scapula, and then going down the back. I think that might be, you know, there's quite a few muscles that are involved in that area. And you don't need to know the names of all the muscles to be able to just observe the reference and see how they're pinching around those forms. But it is helpful to know where the where the scapula is, because then around which point you're building out those forms of the anatomy of the back. Just one piece of clay at a time for these areas of the anatomy. Then I also feel like, the neck was a little bit uneven. So just wherever it needs clay, just adding some clay. And let me come back and add some anatomy around here, or some clay. That shoulder, there's the skin fold that's kind of tucking around the area where the arm is. I want to give an indication of that. And then as I come in with the tool, which I'm going to do in a sec, I just want to try to not erase all of this information that I'm trying to carefully set in place. That's an issue that I often have when I'm laying in clay and then coming with a tool over top of the clay that I've laid in. You don't want to just come over it and smooth out everything in an equal way. You want to pick and choose. Like, for example, there's a hard-ish transition. I'm going to use this. There's a hard-ish transition here where this muscle transitions to the scapula. It's kind of a hard transition. And then it becomes soft in this middle area of the scapula. So I'm just gonna, let's actually use this. So it's hard right here, and I'm just gonna kind of press down, try to get an idea of that hard transition, and then it softens towards the middle, and then there's another somewhat hard transition here under that mass, or under the scapula. So picking and choosing and paying special attention to where is the transition soft, where does it become more of a firm transition, and then where is it a hard transition. Just imagine those as like little hills, abstract hills, but you want to get the feeling of the hill, like how is that hill transitioning to the next hill over. And that subtlety is what really makes it look like masterfully done once you finish. And then here, feel like I might have added too much mass of those shoulders, the spine. And those muscles are coming around. And then, once you do it, like I laid in those transitions, and then I felt, you know what, that's a little bit too abrupt. You gotta soften that anatomy. So that's the biggest mistake, or not the biggest, but a big mistake that beginners make is making the anatomy, the distinctions between the anatomy, too abrupt, too hard, when in reality it's a bunch of fairly soft hills. Somebody's asking, will everyone get a score for their sculpture? Oh, that's a good question. Probably not. Probably not, just because I don't know. There was a lot of people that signed up for the competition, so I'll have to see how many actually submit. Hopefully there'll be a lot of submissions, but if there's 200 submissions, it's just too much to go through and grade. So I'll probably, you know, I don't think at this one I have some other things that are coming up, so I probably don't have time to give a submission for everyone. But I'm looking forward to doing more of these types of competitions in the future, and I'd like to do something where there's like a VIP experience where maybe you get additional live streams, and maybe it's somewhere in the range of $25 to $50, and you just get a better, like a more of a tailored experience, like maybe like specific critiques during the competition or during the challenge. It'll probably be more like a challenge, maybe not a competition. And I'd like to do that because I really like this type of stuff, like the live streams. And then maybe those that, I'd like to have it so that it could still be free for people that want, but then people that want to, maybe they want to have like what you're saying, like a specific, like their work graded or something. I could just charge a little bit so that I can find the time to be able to do that type of stuff. But that's a great idea, and that's actually something that I'll have to add to, like if I do another one of these and there's a VIP experience where people can get something extra, that would be a good thing to include, to be able to have your work graded specifically, and maybe some notes on your work and things like that. Somebody saying, thanks for all the tips. Saludos desde Peru. Saludos. That model's ponytail looks like a hand at the end. Oh, does it? Oh yeah, I guess I could see that, like a mitt, like an oven mitt or something. Um, Getting close with that upper back area, feeling like a gesture of the form. Yeah, it is kind of gesture, and construction. You're just trying to pull out the information that you like, and emphasize that information. As I'm coming. Let's see. Somebody says, construction critique. The neck looks about 1/4 to 1/3 too long, unless that's a style element. Yeah, I think that might be the case, and I think as I work on the head, I think I need to bring the chin down a little bit, and that'll shorten the neck. So I may need to do that, and I think also the neck is too thin at this point, so that also makes it look longer, just because it's so doesn't I haven't built up the mass that's required. The legs always moving with the skeleton of wire. Got problems with stability. You don't have this problem. Oh, the legs are, if the legs are moving around a lot, you may need to like focus on the base, like put a base of clay. What I did is, I had some blocks of wood, and then I put those down and then sculpted some clay over it, and I made sure to press the wire of the sculpture, the loop of the foot, deep down into the clay, and now it's pretty stable. You can see that the sculpture still does. Oh, let me. So the sculpture still does move. It's not super still, but I'm okay with that. It's not a huge deal to me. But if it bothers you, then you might just, it might be like if you have a firmer type of clay, that can help. Yeah, I think bringing that chin down is something I need to shorten the neck a little bit. And softening. Come back to this here. I'm just going to roll over. There's this kind of skin fold, or then it smooths out up here. Comes smooth. I'm just trying to be conscious of what the transition looks like in what areas. Like I feel like maybe pushing this a little bit closer to that area and smoothing it out. Yeah, but if anybody can think of things that they'd like to see, like if I did this competition again, and if it was free, maybe there's different models, or maybe it focuses on a different area of the body, like maybe it's like a competition for sculpting the hands or something like that. But if there's a free version and a VIP experience, like what would you guys like to see in a VIP experience, just to make it worthwhile for some people to say, I'd like to, pay 25 or $50 and be able to have like these additional bonus features, because that might be a way to do more of these competitions in a way that I wouldn't have to keep going back to the same sponsors and well, we'll see. Maybe the sponsors will be really excited to do another one of these, but if they don't see the bump, then obviously it doesn't make sense to do a lot of, or to support a lot of these competitions if there's not some sort of benefit to those sponsors, which that's just life. Let's see. Do you have a method to the madness in terms of what you focus on at all, or is it just kind of what you notice needs more work? So at this point, I'm just, as far as like a method, well, I guess it's just looking at what looks off, and then working on that area for a little bit, and then going to the next. Like I said, I probably wouldn't have moved on to working these details, like working this anatomy of the back. I wouldn't have started that until I had this more developed, the whole sculpture more developed. But I wanted to show you guys how I go about working on the details. And it's a similar process where it's really just taking your time and studying the reference, and then combining that with whatever knowledge you have about the figure, and then slowly developing those forms. The method, I guess, is just to work on the areas that look off first. Like take care of those first, and then but I don't know if there's anything more to it than that. Watching live from Kenya. Oh, awesome. That's great. Very cool. I didn't notice the sponsors. Yeah, check out the sponsors. Those are, if you can support the sponsors, that's the DaVinci Eye app, the Proko.com, obviously, the courses over at Proko.com, as well as PoseSpace that provided these references for the competition. So a big thank you to them. They also have given, like, one of the prizes is everybody that submits for the competition will get 2 free poses. So they've not only given us the poses to use that are the censored poses here, and you can find the uncensored versions over on their website. So they gave us these poses, and then they also gave 2 free additional poses to everybody that submits their work for the competition. So really, really big thank you to them for the support. They're a great resource. I like that they provide 24 different images of the pose. I think any less than that, and it's really not enough visual information to sculpt the figure, just because you need that much visual information to be able to accurately sculpt somebody. Because 4 photos, you know, the front, the side, the back, it's just not enough information unless you already have tons of experience sculpting people and can kind of guess when it comes to the anatomy and stuff. But if you don't have a lot of experience, it really does require all that visual information of the different references. So yeah, support the sponsors. There's also Blick Art Materials. They don't have an affiliate link though, or they didn't send me an affiliate link, so they won't even be able to track it, but I'll have to. But they were kind enough to send some $100 gift cards for art supplies as part of the competition. Some of the prizes. Definitely appreciate that. Let's see what. Oh man, so we're coming up on an hour. So it's getting pretty close. We'll go. And then again, I recommend, like, when you're sculpting the forms, try to come across the form, like here, like I'm doing here on the arm. When we're a beginner, we want to go with the form, so we want to just like sculpt along the arm like this. But try not to do that. Try to come, like, wrap around the form as you're sculpting, and I find that it's a much more interesting way of finding the form, and I feel like it just works so much better than trying to come along the form. I don't know why that is, but it just seems to look better when, as you're finding those forms, you're coming across the form instead of along the form. And you can vary it, you know, you can come at different angles and just pull the clay towards different directions as you're trying to find those forms. So here you can see, you know, you can see where it was before and where it is now. You know, but there's still a long ways to go. If I was to get this to a finished sculpture, ready to be molded and cast in bronze or something like that, I would still take quite a bit to develop it. You know, 5 or 6 hours. I think we're coming up on like 6 hours for the live streams. It's just not, generally it's not enough time for a figure this size to develop it. Well, it depends, you know. If I was just going for this loose texture, and if I wasn't going through and answering questions and things like that during the live stream, and I could just like work really fast, then I might be able to finish something in a simplified way, like how I've done a simplified version of the head and hands like I did in the last live stream. Somebody's saying, I would like to see a challenge for the Figure Sculpting Fundamentals course. I would like to see another challenge for the Figure Sculpting Fundamentals course, maybe to get discounts in the Portrait Sculpting course. Could be interesting. Oh yeah, that could be a good thing. Oh, by the way, there is a sale going on right now for, like, during this competition. And so if you signed up for the email list, there's a special discount code that I send through the email list where you can get 20% off either the figure sculpting course or the portrait sculpting course. And so I think I've forgotten to mention that, but that is going on right now. And so if you're interested in either of those courses, be sure to get on the email list, and then I send out the discount code that you can use, and it'll just be during this competition, and it'll end after the competition. Somebody's asking, is this the last daily live stream? Yeah, this is the last one for this week, but they'll all be available to watch. They'll all be up and available, and you can watch those at any time. Maybe I'll do another one on my own YouTube channel, the Andrew Joseph Keith YouTube channel. I might do another one next week, Monday or Tuesday. I'm not positive yet, but if you're interested, be sure you're subscribed over there, and maybe I'll take this to another couple hours of work on that YouTube channel. Okay, I think that's about where I'm gonna leave it for now. So hopefully that gives you guys an idea of how to start working on the details. Let me back up the camera just so you can see the whole figure, and that way you can see the final turnaround of this one, which so far, it's 6 hours in. If during these live streams, I could still work on this for longer, but hopefully this gives you guys an idea of how to start. Again, most of the mistakes are during those beginning stages. So if you haven't seen the other live streams, you can go back and watch those. This is what it was looking like before, and this is after I've worked on the texture for a little bit with the tools. Depending on what you like, you can go to a more refined texture or have a looser texture. But yeah, I hope you guys are enjoying the competition. Stay creative, stay productive. I'll see you around, and thank you.